WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and our website, www.wvtcdetroit.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users.
This is
Soulful Inspiration.
It's your girl, Nikki Jones. This will be an hour to feed your soul with music and laughter, information and inspiration. You're listening to WVTC
Detroit.
All designed with you in mind. So sit back, relax, and get ready to join the conversation with me,
Nikki Jones.
Soulful.
Soulful Inspiration.
Inspirations. Yes, sir.
Welcome to Soulful Inspirations. I am your girl, Nikki Jones. What's going on, people? How y'all doing tonight? This is your girl, and I am here with my sisters because it is the third Tuesday of the month, and so we got My Sister, Your Sister podcast coming to you tonight. We are excited because we got a great conversation for you tonight. So yes. I am so excited to introduce and present my sisters and your sisters too, because we're going to be chilling tonight talking about this movie, The Color Purple. OMG. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about.
I'm excited about this conversation.
Yes, and I am so excited about it as well. As you can see, these two beautiful ladies sitting next to me, to my right, your left. To the far right, it would be the wonderful, the beautiful, the professional, and the benevolent Tamara Hardy. Yes, and next to her is the also wonderful and beautiful and benevolent Michelle Johnson. Right. Both for her. Yes. We're excited tonight. We are going to have a great time. You're listening to us on WVTC Detroit.
Yes.
2-time Stellar Award-winning Internet Station of the Year. We are excited about that. Thank you again. Please like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. We're going to have a great time tonight. I might give away, I don't know, 2, maybe 4 more tickets to
me.
to the premiere that I am having, the private pre-screening of The Color Purple, the new rendition of The Color Purple.
Yes.
This Friday. It's happening this Friday at Imagine Novi. And it's at 6:30 p.m. And if you are interested in going, then you need to stick around because you got to answer some trivia questions to get them tickets. Okay, I'm just not giving them away. And these are Cubby tickets because these are the only tickets that I have left. So it's the Cubby tickets. Which means that you're sitting on a cubby seat, where you can have 2 people. So I don't know, maybe you got a boo, you know what I'm saying? Maybe you and your boo, you know what I'm saying? Or maybe you and your girl just kick it and then whatever, just chilling. Maybe you and your child. Or bring your split personality. I didn't think of that. I never would have thought of that.
Only you, Michelle.
Only you. Sit on both sides and just talk to yourself. All righty then. Or you could just have room, for your popcorn and all your snacks. Whatever. But yep, so you're going to have to answer some questions, some trivia questions, and to get those tickets. And again, those are Cubby tickets. Same price, but they're Cubby tickets. So just wanted to get that out just in case, get your trivia ready. You know what I'm saying? Get your Google ready because I'm sure some people are going to have to use Google to find them answers.
Maybe. No, I watched it recently, so.
You watched it recently?
I rewatched it. Just
I rewatched it too. I have rewatched it too. So as always, I relinquish the mic in terms of leading the conversation, and we're going to allow my sister, your sister, Michelle Johnson, to take it away.
Yes. First, giving honor to God for this opportunity to lead this conversation today.
Yes.
I'm excited because this is one of my favorite movies.
Yes.
One that I think spans across generations. I think this will be a movie that actually they should probably put into schools.
Really?
We'll get into that.
All
but
right,
I do believe that it needs to be in schools because I think there's something to be said about telling the narrative from that period to children. Because I think sometimes they don't necessarily have a clear understanding about our history, what it was like, what the roles and the experiences that both men and women had back then. I think that's missing into understanding how we are today. There's a lot of misleading narratives. So I think telling a fuller story, a different perspective could help. But we could talk about that later. But anyway, we were sitting here before we got on air, and Nikki came prepared. She did some homework, some interesting facts. And, this movie came out in 1985. Alice Walker, her Pulitzer Prize winning book. That really, I think when it came out, I promise you, wasn't nobody turning on their TVs. Everybody's face was in this book. That was just so riveting. Just the stories behind Celie and Mr. And just all of the different characters and their perspectives. It was quite startling. And I remember I was reading it as a teenager. So for me, it was just like, people lived like this back then. So it just really helped me round out my perspective. And then to have it on Broadway with Fantasia and the musical adaptation of it. And then now this movie that you're giving out these free tickets that mean hopefully we can win those tickets. It's a musical, which is quite interesting to me because I think when I think of a musical, as I was sharing with you all before we got on, I think it softens the edges. I think it doesn't give like the 1985 rendition. It definitely pulls forward more entertainment. In a sense, than it is about a historical perspective and context. Right?
I agree.
Forward. It's like forward a historical context. But I'm excited for it. There's been a lot of press about it. So why don't we talk about, let's lead with some fun facts. Because there were a lot of women that maybe you all didn't know that were offered certain roles from the 1985 edition of the movie. So Nikki, let's start with the character.
Okay, so the character Celie, nobody else wanted, well, I shouldn't say nobody else wanted that role, but I should say they didn't consider anyone but Whoopi Goldberg for that role.
That's interesting.
What was funny though is that Whoopi, when she heard they were going to make it a movie, she actually wrote a letter to Alice Walker. She was in her car with her daughter, and she heard about it on the radio or something like that. And then when she got home, she wrote a letter to Alice Walker, sent the letter to Alice Walker. Alice Walker read the letter. She was like, "Okay, I've heard of this person," because Whoopi was doing comedy at the time. She was doing stand-up comedy, and so so Alice Walker forwarded the letter to Steven Spielberg. And when he read the letter, he checked out Whoopi Goldberg and said, "That is Celie, period." He never looked at anybody else.
Really?
He never looked at anybody else for Celie.
And she was 29 at the time.
Yes.
Very young.
I mean,
very young Whoopi.
And I did not know that was her daughter in the scene. That was Whoopi Goldberg's daughter in the scene, in the dinner scene, sitting next to Sophia.
One line for that movie.
But for now, Suge Avery, this is
interesting.
This is the part that cracked me up. So Suge Avery, there were so many people that were considered for that. So they considered Shaka Khan, who said no.
Interesting.
They considered Tina Turner first.
Which I would have loved.
I would have loved that.
I would have loved it because God rest your soul, Tina. But you had them legs, honey. They were bona fide.
And she could have sung the mess out of those songs. Tina Turner turned it down because she felt like she had lived that life with Ike, so she did not want to relive it on screen again.
How that could be, how it could bring trauma to her. Even further induced trauma.
Yeah, I could see that too, reliving it. Lola Falana. Now I forgot what Lola Falana looked like.
She was a beautiful black woman. She was beautiful.
From what I remember, but I can't remember her right now.
She was in a lot of musicals. In the 50s and 60s. So
that was the pivotal thing. They wanted somebody who could act and sing.
But I could imagine in 1985, she didn't look like she did in the 50s and the 60s.
She was. Let me tell you, she's a beautiful.
Why y'all talking?
I'm gonna look her up right now. In the 80s, she was very beautiful, and I mean, she could have played that role. I think she could have done Suge justice.
Well, she turned it down. And,
well, no, hold on. Let me see her.
No, she's
Diana Ross is another person who they offered it to, and she turned it down.
Wow.
Patti LaBelle was interested and auditioned, and they said they were concerned about her acting. So, because they had seen her with Adolph Caesar in A Soldier Story, they thought of her.
That's her in 1985.
And
she was a beautiful woman.
Beautiful.
She was good. She was good looking.
I can see that.
Shout out to you, Lola, if you listening.
That's because you didn't watch, you didn't watch those old movies.
Yeah.
She was in a lot of musicals.
She looked good. She must put mayonnaise on her face or something.
Okay, so Sophia Nell Carter. I did not know this.
But she got a voice, though. She didn't have Nell Carter voice.
Give me a break. I sure didn't serve it. Okay, so
I was not expecting
you
that.
weren't expecting that.
I wasn't.
But she had a phenomenal voice.
She did.
She had
and she was on Broadway a whole lot.
So I wouldn't call her on Broadway.
I can see why they would offer her the part.
She was good.
Jennifer Holliday turned it down.
Really?
Yes. Nell Carter turned it down. Jennifer Holliday turned it down. But Oprah this is the part that she really, 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 really wanted. Like, she never wanted anything. If you hear her talk about it, she never wanted anything as much as she wanted this role in The Color Purple.
Well, better that than Beloved, because, honey.
Woo, I love it.
I think Beloved, because somebody needed to give some love to that. That was the most confusing movie to me. And I read the book.
I
read the book.
I didn't read the book.
No, you don't want to.
But I saw the movie and I wasn't impressed.
That was.
I wasn't impressed.
Okay.
I wasn't impressed.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Even if it's on Freebie. Freebie.
I never watched anything on Freebie.
So Margaret Avery is the person who actually played Suge, and
so phenomenal.
They offered it to her, but it was only after she was able to get a meeting with Steven Spielberg, and he remembered that he had worked with her before. And he was like, and it was a small role that she played, which she had to sing and she had to act. However, the voice that you hear when she's singing Sister is not her.
It's not her.
Neither is that her singing in the church scene. Do you know who it is?
I don't, but I know that wasn't her.
Do you know who it is?
I do, but I can't think of her name right now because I read it.
Ain't that one of the questions for me not to get the ticket?
You know who?
Yeah, it is.
I actually thought it was someone else initially. I thought it was Sandra. Can't think of her last name now. But anyway, I thought it was someone else initially, and come to find out it wasn't her.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna put it out here right now. Don't say it. Don't say it. I know you know. Don't say it. But if you know who the voice is singing "Sister, you've been on my mind." Oh, sister.
You got that, Nikki?
Oh my God.
Oh, sister. If you know who it is singing that and singing God's Trying to Tell You Something, put it in the chat and I'll give you 2 tickets. I'll give you 2 tickets. It's the Cubby tickets though, just so you know. It's the Cubby tickets, so don't be tripping.
I did not know that one.
Yes, so if you know who that is, I will give you 2 tickets. Tell me who is the voice behind the music, the 2 songs in The Color Purple, Sisters, Miss Celie's Blues, and God Is Trying to Tell You Something. All right. So that's all. Don't say it.
Okay, I want to say it. Okay, go ahead. No, okay. So those were some fun facts, y'all, about some of the characters, which I found very, very interesting. But let's go deeper into this.
Okay.
So we all read the book. We all saw the 1985 version of the movie.
Yes.
I think one of the things that stood out for me in that movie, well, I would say 2 things. The first thing that stood out to me in that movie is the role of men and women back in that day. Which I still feel like there's a little bit of that still in 2023, where women are not valued. They're more like and treated like property. Had no real voice and stake, particularly Black women. Didn't have a voice or a stake even in the simplest of things in their life, right? So that stood out to me in the rendition, which I remember as a teenager, I just couldn't fathom, like, like that, right?
Right.
Like living like that.
How they do that?
Especially with the mama I got. She said what she said, meant what she meant.
Really?
Dared man, woman, child, dog, or cat to say anything different
Listen.
or come against it when she laid down.
Ooh-wee.
Very different. I think the second thing that stood out for me is how forgiving Black women are.
Girl.
I don't know. I was like, that's some sainthood.
I done sat back on that one. I done sat back on that. And it ain't because of me. Like, I'm not sitting back because I was the one that forgave so much. I just know people who have forgiven so much.
Exactly.
You know, and so much more than what I think that I might be capable of, that I don't even want to know, put it that way, that I don't even want to know if I'm capable of forgiving.
On that level.
On that level.
So those are the two things that really stood out to me in that movie. Was like how forgiving Black women are.
Yeah.
And then how in that same like breath, the devaluing of women. What are a couple of things for you all stood out in the 1985 movie that you all can like recall or remember? What stood out for you?
I'll let you go first.
I think what stood out for me was just the sheer abuse that Celie dealt with as a child, and then as an adult being raped, and then being abused by her husband, who really didn't care. All he was concerned about was a clean house and babies that were fed. I remember the abuse that she suffered, you know, when she was trying to help old girl with her car, and then the police beat her down. It was just so much.
That was Sophia.
That was Sophia.
I'm
Sophia, but I'm just talking about abuse in general. That she was beat, and it was just sad. You know, I think about back then, Black people didn't really talk about, and they still don't talk about relationships when and that physical abuse that you experience and people experience. And for me, that's the one thing that stood out. Is that we can go back to our last conversation. We talked about self-silencing, how she silenced her voice out of fear. And then she silenced her voice because she didn't believe in herself. She had no self-confidence. She thought she was ugly. She thought she couldn't read. I mean, there was so much to Celie that it's a wonder that she didn't lose her mind. And so that's the thing that stood out to me. But then on the other side, triumph. That she did learn how to read, that she taught herself how to sew. You know, that she ended up in the end rising above her circumstances. And so I love the story of coming, you know, it's a redemption story in a way, starting so low in life, and then at the very end, having your own business, paying your own way. And everybody who treated her bad, excuse me, you guys, that's my daughter. Everybody who treated me bad, everybody who treated her bad, in the end, they lost and she won. So there was victory in the end for her.
I want to get back to that lost part.
Okay.
Put a pin in that. Put a pin in the loss.
Okay, so for me, it was about the reinvention of her, of Celie, because she had to go through a whole lot to understand that she can reinvent herself. And I think she kept doing it until she finally succeeded, and she got to a place where she was happy with who she was. And there was still something missing, you know, and it came full circle when her sister finally came back. And it was like, this is the last piece of me. And here I am at however old I am. And, you know, I've gone through all of this mess, and I've gone through all of these changes, and even encourage somebody else to try to go through the way I did. You know, that Stockholm syndrome kind of, reality for her. And I just feel like, you know, she just kept once she figured out that she could move on from where she was, then she just kept reinventing herself. And then she eventually, like you said, became an entrepreneur, but there was still something missing.
Yeah.
And when her sister came back, then it was just like all
Nothing
coming
could take
together.
the place of that relationship with her sister.
No, because that was the first person that loved her.
Yes.
That loved
That was the first person. Yes, the first person that loved her, in spite of everything that she was going through.
Exactly.
So that reinvention, being not afraid to start over. And I think that some women, some of us go through that. I've never been afraid to start over. My problem was I'm always starting over.
Hello, somebody.
You know what? I'll start over. So I've never been afraid of starting over. My issue is finishing what I start. So that to me has been the hardest thing. But I love the fact that she kept reinventing herself until she felt finally got completion, if you will.
Yeah.
I love that. And one of the things that I do hope, that doesn't get lost in the new version is these very points. And that they don't over characterize it to the point where it feels Disney-ish to me.
Yeah.
I'm worried about, because it was something about that rawness in the 1985 version that allowed me to better understand the complexities that Black women contend with even today. I mean, you could put that day and time into this day and time.
Yeah, and it was still
right
be
now.
relevant.
It's
Right,
still relevant.
right,
That's why I think it speaks to everybody, because it's still relevant. People are still going through the same identity issues, the same abuse.
Yes.
All of that is still happening.
But when you think about Celie and you think about Suge and you juxtapose those two characters together, you have one woman who has no self-esteem and another woman who is off the chart and just don't care.
Right.
And then one is afraid to use their voice. The other one is like, get out of here. And that's why it was so interesting to see them, the two of them together in a relationship, because they fed off of each other.
Yeah.
And without the two of them being together, I don't think the characters would have risen up to the degree that they did without having them so close together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something to, and I think another important thing about the movie that I hope shows up in the 2023 version is this idea of a foundation. Because when you look at Suge's character, she was a PK kid.
Yeah.
And a lot of what she was going through and the trials that she was going through.
PK kids
I can relate.
I know a lot of PK kids that do that.
Right.
And I mean, like, they rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I raised my hand.
They rebelled. But I think the thing is that stood out to me in that movie is that was in her, that was Christ built, never left. Like that.
She ran from it.
She ran from it. And so when she busted into that church, when she finally was singing at the juke joint, and they was trying to out-sing her, right? Because the juke joint and the church was right across from each other. And then when she, I don't know, the spirit
Ain't
just
that like
hit
the
her.
Devil? So put a church, you're gonna put a right.
And so you have this like dueling
That's the best
thing,
place
like
for
the
it to be.
over here.
Exactly.
What's interesting though is that in the book, she didn't care what her father thought.
Exactly.
Did not
She
care.
did not care.
She
In the
did
book,
not
she
care.
was just like, whatever.
Done and done.
If you don't want to be, if you don't want to be my dad, peace out. She was chucking deuces at dad in the book. So they, that part they changed in the movie. And I kind of feel like it brought some redemption for her as a person in terms of having some vulnerability. But in the book, she really didn't have any at all.
But I think even to that point, though, I think there's something to be said about the history of Christianity and Christ for Black people during that time.
Yeah.
Again, I think historically, the younger generation don't understand what that was about. Now granted, they brought us over here on a boat,
right?
Took away all of our traditions, and the only thing that the white man would allow us to do on a Sunday was to worship, and that was just because they thought the Black folks needed to worship, in order to be good slaves. Like we ain't gonna talk about, but
we don't want to go there.
Right. They'll stay on my plantation, do what they need to do. But I do think that's a lost narrative of understanding church and Black culture.
Yeah.
Right. Which again, I think it wasn't a big I don't think it was over dramatized in the 1985 version, but it definitely was a big portion.
Yeah.
And I feel like with the younger generation, I think it is important for them to understand that, because I think sometimes coming from this generation, it just seems like this is just put upon you, something that I have to do. But this is something that is historical in our culture.
I'm hoping that this version will prompt the younger generation to go back and look at the 85 version.
I hope so too.
If it is watered down, as you say, or I don't want to say watered down,
softer,
but I would say it's softer. If it is softer, I think that they could learn so much more from the original version.
Yeah.
Because so much is being softened, right?
Yeah.
And if they take the time to sit down and look at it, they'll see a story of redemption all the way through for every single character.
Yeah.
For Mr.
I say that's the lost part that I was talking about.
He was even redeemed.
Right. And you know what? Alice Walker, when the movie really came out, she did not like that part. She didn't like the fact that Mr. was given that much redemption and
forgiveness.
She didn't want people to feel sorry for him. Now, when she, like later on, it kind of grew on her. The movie grew on her, but when it originally came out, she was like, she didn't really like it because of that part, that perspective. There's a question here. Adrian Thomas says, could y'all have made it through that, or do you feel you would have done something different in terms of what's
Listen, the Lord put me in this time for a reason. Seriously, I don't know. I
don't know.
I think y'all would. Because
I'm gonna tell you this: if I didn't have somebody like Suge to stop me from
cutting the throat,
yeah,
I love that.
It would have been over.
That would have been a wrap.
It would have been over, especially if I found my letters.
I'm surprised y'all responded that way, because you all have such strong testimonies.
Bless you, my child.
Of redemption, of resilience in your own way. I think any Black woman that I know of in my business, I think they could have made it through. Now, would they made the same decisions or stayed the same length of time? That I can't speak to.
If I had to put myself in one of those characters, it would have been Sophia. I would have been because of her confidence when she had it. It would have had to been beat out of me the way it was. You know what I'm saying? I would have had to. I don't know if I would have hit the mayor, but I'm just saying. I don't know if I would have done that.
I don't know if I would have could have been, to be honest with you.
If I had to put myself in that movie, I probably would have been Sophia.
Is there anybody in there that I would really want to be? Who would you be?
I have no idea. Squid.
Boy,
no. I don't see myself in the character right now, because
I'm just saying, if I had to pick,
pick one. Pick one.
I probably would pick Suge.
Yeah.
Oh, how you gonna take my character?
Because Suge was fun.
Yeah.
She spoke her piece.
Mm-hmm.
She wasn't afraid to flirt.
Mm-mm.
She's very flirtatious. She knew what she wanted and she went after it.
She harnessed her feminine,
all of that
proudness.
Yeah. That is so opposite from me. So I would have wanted to be like
the opposite.
Have that power of self and her femininity. She was very powerful in her feminism, and I like that. I like that she wasn't afraid to show herself and be everything for everybody, and still could sing.
I thought maybe you would go for Nettie, honestly, because you're a traveler, missionary.
That's what I would have said for you.
Oh, Jesus, thank you.
That for you, like, because she was, she educated, she was learning how to read.
Mm-hmm.
She hit Mr. with them books.
I would have
hit Mr. with them books, and then went to travel and help people because she was
wasn't afraid
you know what I'm saying?
go for. I mean, she struck out on her own.
She did.
Yeah.
you know, and she wasn't afraid to. She wasn't afraid to run away. She wasn't afraid to.
I love that.
To do that, and so yeah.
Okay, so next rendition, you know, the 3023 version. We gonna play those
It's gonna be the color purple in space.
By that point, it's gonna be not gonna be purple. It's gonna be
Chartreuse.
Chartreuse. So, what's interesting to me about all the buzz about this movie is not just the relaunch, but I think what's interesting is the characters that they have, like the actors,
Yes,
like Tahani,
the way it was cast.
Yeah.
I love that
And people didn't know she can sing.
I love that she stepped outside of what I would have thought was her comfort zone to do this.
Yes,
I love that
because she does sing. People didn't know that. Like, that's her singing on.
She can sing,
right? But that's her singing on. I Can Do Bad by Myself at the very beginning.
I did not know that.
That's her singing.
I did not know that.
She was singing somebody rock steady.
Yeah,
That's her singing.
That's what
all right.
Yeah, it's right. You can sing, Hunty. You can sing.
What it is. All right.
Yes, let me see. So Joe says we also have to remember we were raised in a different era and a culture. Black women were barely second-class citizens in the South.
Yep. That's true. That's what we talked about.
True.
That's very
and
true.
That's why,
and still today.
And that's why that's why I think it would be good for our youth to see it, because they could see how, you know, she was treated. You know, everyone going into the store, you know, trying to get stuff on credit,
right?
You know, and purchase. They had to wait for the white people to buy what they were going to buy, and all of that, having no freedom. You know, the fact that they were able to walk around and they had to say you couldn't look at look them in the eye.
You gonna buy anything or not, gal?
My mouth. Yeah. And so I don't. Yeah.
Yes, people are still living the
1985 in the 2023 life. Yeah.
Yeah. So true.
Absolutely.
And I think when I mentioned a point earlier why I think this should be taught in schools, I think the Alice Walker book and the 1985 version, if you know, because true in the day and people, they don't want to read, they don't want to crack a book, they want audio book or whatever. But I think there's some important lessons to be learned, but also to teach young men and women the value of one another. Like, look how far our people have gone to fight for certain rights, and yet we still find ourselves struggling to be looked at as whole human beings, and not property or to be toyed with. I know that's right. I would missed her cut.
Yes,
yeah,
he would have been cut if it was me.
Yeah, he would have had straight up. But I think there's something to not, trying to what do I want to say? Protect youth from these type of narratives. I think I'd rather have a space where we can have open dialogue and conversation.
Yeah.
To get clarity and understanding.
Yeah.
I don't know how you all feel about this, because we read it when we were teenagers. Like, my mother had no qualms of me reading this book. There was some language.
I'm surprised it hasn't been banned, because the banning of books. I'm surprised that this hasn't been on that list, because it has so much in it.
It's probably banned in Florida.
Boom.
Well,
it was centered around women, so they probably be like, "Oh, ain't nobody gonna take nothing serious."
And it was centered around Black women.
Black women, but it has sexuality in it, right? It has race issues in it,
right?
It has physical abuse in it, right? It has a different type of relationships that they didn't talk about back then.
Right.
Homosexual relationships, that kind of thing. And so it's interesting that I think it could go into a college. I don't think high school, but really? I do see maybe having a conversation and taking that book and doing a study on it at a college level. I don't know if. I think some youth would probably be too silly, to take it serious, to be honest with you. But I do see it in a college setting, and then dissecting it and talking about it and unpacking all of the information and all of the themes that show up in that book.
I think when I was researching it, and I saw that Oprah Winfrey's dinner table dialogue was not scripted. That part where she was saying, "Set in that jail, set in that jail, and nearby the right to death." That part was all her ad lib.
Wow.
She ad libbed that whole part. The part where Celie and Nettie were being torn apart, and he had to leave. You know, Steven Spielberg literally told the girls, "Whatever you do, don't let him separate you." And then separately, he told Danny Glover, "Do whatever you can to separate them." Yeah. So when he was beating their hands, that wasn't. It was real. That was real. When he pulled them down the steps, that was real. Like that whole scene, they tried to only do one take per view that they needed, so that they wouldn't have to keep going through that experience over and over again. Because they said when it was over, you know, everybody had to take a beat because because it was just so traumatic. And Danny Glover, of course, you know, was like, I can't keep doing this, you know, but he was in his character. I mean, he stayed in character for the scene. Yeah. But when it was over, I just, you know, I think about Steven Spielberg and how he caught flack for being a white director directing this Black movie and this all Black cast. And I don't know if it would have been the same if Spike Lee or John Singleton had directed
Well, they wouldn't have been able to afford to do it. Let's just call a spade, people. Let's just tell the truth and shame the devil. They would not have gotten finance.
Sorry, I had to back up on that one.
They would not have gotten finance. True. And to do that work. And a lot of the things that went on in that movie was only because of
Steven Spielberg.
You know what I'm saying? And his position.
Spike Lee couldn't have given it the justice that it needed. I look at all the Spike Lee movies and things of that nature, and he has his own intent of what he wants to bring out in a movie. Sure. And I don't think he could have given that movie the justice that it required. It would have, at the end, it would have been like, he would have
all bad, but I get it.
The camera would have on one person and try to look serious.
Somebody would have been rolling like this. Yeah. Then he would have been like this, rolling.
Black and white the whole time. He wouldn't have no money for no color.
Nettie would have rolled back like me and you.
It would have been different.
It would have been different. Definitely. It definitely would have been different. But let's be clear. They couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford it.
Yeah, because they did most of it. Yeah, they did most of it in North Carolina, but they did those scenes in Africa were actually in Africa.
Yeah,
he would have been for it.
Yeah.
Well, again, you think Spike Lee would have got a budget to do that?
Bro, I don't even know. I'm reading Larry's question. They did not give him a nod at all. He was completely snubbed.
Yeah.
And it was because you know, Steven Spielberg is Jewish, and that the Jewish community really did not want him to do that movie, and that was part of the reason why it was kind of like a punishment, if I'm not mistaken. Like, okay, this is what you're gonna do then? Well, you ain't gonna get nothing, you know. And I believe that not only was it about that, but it was also about him having such an all Black cast and a cast of people that had not been, you know, seen in a lot of movies before then. Because a lot, you know, this was Whoopi's first movie, which is why she did not get an Oscar. And I believe, you know, it was of course Oprah's first movie as well. And the other cast members were just not well known enough.
And I don't think Danny Glover was actually that well known at that time.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so Joe is saying Quincy Jones is the reason we actually saw the film the way it is. $15 million budget. I don't know how he pulled it off. Thank goodness Steven Spielberg waived his fee.
Wow. You know, the thing about it though, that's based off what you just said, I had to look up some other movies where there was a white director and like people of color cast. So I'm thinking about West Side Story, where they actually not the sharks. But you know what's interesting though? It's a shame that director got nods for doing that work, but that Steven Spielberg, because of what he believes in, which you know, Jewish faith, And it was an all-black cast, and the folks in his space didn't necessarily like or care for what he was doing with this particular piece.
Yeah.
Based off a book written by a Black woman.
Mm-hmm.
I just find that very interesting, to say the least, that we still face those kinds of things today, where people are being snubbed for telling a perspective that we know that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad to see, because I feel like if Stephen was sitting right here with us now, I think he would say that he has gotten more than just the accolades.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. He
his
felt like
work-
that was his first adult movie.
I mean, he's been cemented in history
Yes.
for telling stories
Yes.
that show human behavior,
Mhm.
but the humanity of people. I
Yes.
mean, Schindler's List.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ooh, good one.
When you watch that in black and white, it pulls something out of you.
Mm-hmm.
The hurt, the degradation, how they treat it. I mean, it's just, and so when I look at that and I watch that movie and then I look at The Color Purple, I can see similarities in how
For
he
sure.
tried to pull everything out of the cast members so that it could appear very real.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was something that I haven't seen a lot of white directors do.
Well,
Yeah.
He's not afraid. He's not afraid to punch through
Yeah.
and do things other directors haven't done.
Yeah.
Well, that's reparation. Hallelujah. Thank you, Stephen, for all your reparational work you have done.
I saw an interview.
All your life.
I saw an interview with Steven Spielberg, and I think Oprah said this as well. Is that the whole time she was acting, and the whole time they were filming, she was scared that she was going to be replaced. Like she did a lot of her scenes. She did, but she did them out of fear. And it wasn't until she did that scene at the dinner table that she felt like, and she said everybody else in the room felt like she became an actor, because because at that point she bust through the fear in her and began to feel what she was doing in the moment. And Steven Spielberg said that he told her, "I knew you were scared. I knew the whole time that you were operating out of fear." He said, "But you used that fear and it helped you produce what you produced." And he said, "I just let you use it." He said, "And we all saw you when you broke through it at the dinner table." And he was like, it was just amazing.
Wow. 9 years old when this came out, it was harsh. So as I started working in mental health, I know that's right.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
I feel you, girl.
I said, shut.
Right.
Made me scratch my head,
girl. So let me ask this: what do you guys think about? What do you guys think about Fantasia being Celie?
Well, she did it on Broadway.
I know she did it on Broadway. I personally
Fantasia.
did not like the Broadway version.
You didn't?
I did not.
A lot of people didn't like the Broadway version. I didn't see it.
I didn't see it with Fantasia though. I saw it with Cynthia. Yeah, her.
Aretha Franklin.
Yeah. Aretha Franklin.
She did that role some justice. Now
She did. I enjoyed her. Her as Celie. She was Aretha Franklin, and she was Harriet Tubman.
She's Harriet Tubman.
Yeah, she's Harriet Tubman too. But I saw it with her in it, but I didn't enjoy the actual production of it. Like I didn't. So I was just kind of sitting in the audience, like, wow.
I saw the TV version with Fantasia in it, and I guess I'm just a stickler for the 1985 version. For me,
Yeah, I'm stuck there.
Yeah,
I'm
stuck.
There's a part of me that don't want to see it because I want to
hold
on
Yeah.
to what I know, and I don't want to walk away. I don't want to compare that one to this one, and so that's why I always like to read the
book.
Oh yeah, first,
because I know they're going to remove some stuff. I know it's going to be different because they have to adapt it to film.
Yeah.
But now I don't want to have to. I want them both to get the accolades that they should get because it's a different time.
Yeah.
And so there's a part of me that says just leave it alone.
That was my first inclination. Was like, nah, I don't want to go see it because I want to just hold on to 1985 in my mind. So I've had to adjust my expectations.
Okay,
I had to adjust my perspective, not so that I wouldn't be disappointed, but more so I can appreciate the artistry behind it.
Yes.
More so than them holding on to the story, especially my favorite parts of the 1985 version.
Well, I'm gonna go see it. Let me tell you why.
Right.
Because I
we need
want it to be successful. I want these Black women to get the due that they deserve.
Yeah.
For sure.
And
For sure.
I like all the women in it. I love
women.
I can't think of the woman's name all of a sudden, but the woman who played Mahalia Jackson.
Oh, Danielle.
Yes.
She's
love
in
her.
there.
From Orange is the New Black.
Orange is the New Black. I love her.
Yeah.
I love her
She's
character.
amazing. And she was on Broadway with
Oh
it
my
too.
goodness.
Yeah, she was.
I just love her character. And so I want this to be successful. I want Taraji to get the accolades that she deserves. I love her. And so seeing them together doing the radio shows and the TV, Good Morning America, I love the fact that they show up and they support one another and they let everybody know, hey, what you say to her, you say to me. We won right now.
Yes.
I love that sisterhood.
Yeah, I think that's part of this rendition of this movie is really showing Black women in solidarity together. Because there is a narrative that we don't stick together and that we don't support each other and we backstab each other. And so I think this rendition is really leading forward with that particular type of narrative, that there is something to be said about. This is why they don't want us together in the room in the first place. Too much genius, too much power, too much, It's like red Kool-Aid. When you get that right amount of sugar in it, I mean, that Kool-Aid, you just drink it up. You be like, what happened to the Kool-Aid? Be this much left? That's what that feels like.
The flavor is just red. Yeah. It don't matter.
It don't matter.
It don't matter what the actual flavor is. It's just red.
But it's good.
But it's good.
But it's good. But did you all know that one of the things that I found out about movies like this, where they're dealing with really like touchy, serious, mental kind of parts of the movie, is that they actually have therapists on site?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just think that is something I never knew. Which I was like, that's a good idea.
And actors go through therapy afterwards.
Because all that embodiment of these characters, you could lose yourself.
Fantasia talked about how playing that role, how much of an impact it had on her physically and mentally.
I can believe it.
And so I can understand that. I remember years ago, when was it this is stupid, but at the same, an example when Joker came out, and who played that? Keith Ledger.
Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger, and how? He couldn't sleep nights because he had to embody that character.
Yeah.
And so when you put
embody the devil, what is you supposed to be?
But that's what I'm saying. They each have to take on something that's opposite or maybe alike for them. But when you get done, sometimes folks don't know how to come out of that character.
Yeah. Because they live it day in, day out.
And so they need that. They need someone to help them come back to a state of reality. You know what I mean?
Michael B. Jordan had to have therapy for, I think, a year after he did the Black Panther and that role that he played.
About that.
But he was fine. I need some therapy just to not look that
he didn't need.
Therapy. Fine. Go ahead, dear. You just saying.
But yes, he needed therapy. He needed therapy after playing Killmonger.
He talked about that. You know, again, we all show up at some point in our life as a different character.
Yes.
Yeah.
We walk into our jobs, we show up with we have to put a mask on just to be in the place. You know, we have to, even when we're out and about, sometimes we have to put on this character, and we're just doing it for a short period of time, but it's over and over and over and over again. So you have to think that playing in a movie of that any role, it can have a huge impact on your mental health and your capacity to show up differently when it's done.
Yeah, that's serious. And I what I appreciate about the 1985 version that I hope translate into this version is this notion of women. I hope that they don't save the triumph to the bitter end. I hope there are things that they do to the movie.
Yeah.
Little wins.
Yes, along the way, because there were things that were missing that was in the book, as you said, that was not in the movie, that talked about those little wins.
Yes.
And I hope that this musical, and maybe by sheer way of singing, a lot of the things in the movie would translate to that. Because I mean, when I was watching the 1985 movie, I said, if Miss Dilly, come on now. Dilly, step on his toe, burn a biscuit, dude. Burn a biscuit. I mean, she spit in Mr. Dad's cup over Suge.
Right.
Like, you been spitting in Mr.'s cup. Like,
But Suge, but so here's the psychology behind it. Suge was somebody she loved.
Somebody she admired.
Somebody she admired.
That's
somebody
true.
she loved.
Somebody she wanted to be.
Somebody she wanted to stay around. Somebody she wanted to be.
Yeah.
You know, Suge was everything for her.
Yeah, and she was color coordinated. I was like, hallelujah.
She was color coordinated.
She was color coordinated.
She needs therapy after the role she played her job. Girl, so
Black women supporting one another.
Absolutely. Hidden Figures, you know, Hidden Figures was a great movie showing womanhood and
who knew how to do that trigonometry.
Right. Child, not just that, but the calculus and
the calculus.
Girl, that was
and they never got the accolades until years and a half of dead. You know,
102, and then you want to bring me up on the Grammy stage.
Still me. Oh, you talking about Oprah Winfrey? So did you catch that move in the movie where Oprah Winfrey was when she got knocked out by the police? You can see her kind of moving her hand, trying to pull her dress. They left it in the movie, but she wasn't supposed to do that. She wasn't supposed to do that.
I mean, I was like, okay, Bloomers.
Right. But
they were good looking bloomers, Oprah, if you listen.
Child, all that stew meat was out. We fit Jim.
She is snatched like yesterday's snack box. Okay? She is snatched.
You know, I ain't even mad at her. I am not mad at her.
She got more head than she got body now.
Beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns.
Beautiful gowns.
You know what I put down?
Regular comedian.
Let me say this. One of the things that Steven Spielberg said was he had an 8th favorite character in this movie. The 8th favorite character that he had was the mailbox.
Not the mailbox.
It did not speak, but it always had a place in the movie.
Always had a place in the movie. The
It
mailbox. He talked about the mailbox being one of his favorite characters because the mailbox was a symbol of something bad or something good.
Yes.
And it was part of a lot of different transitions in the movie.
It was.
And
shout out to the mailbox.
Shout out to the mailbox.
That he didn't have to pay.
I done fixed that mailbox so I can tell if it be messed with.
He had a role. The mailbox had a role.
I just thought that was a cool
powerful because that's true. Like
now when I watch it again, I'm gonna be paying attention to the mailbox.
That mailbox probably gonna look real different.
Yeah,
it's probably gonna look real different.
But like every time I watch it, I learn something else. Like I see something differently, or I see it through eyes of compassion, or I see it through eyes of empowerment. You know what I'm saying?
Ooh, another point that I hope don't get missed in this movie too is about the role of capitalism. So remember in Africa where they were demoing that village? I was like, oh my God.
People miss stuff like that.
But that mailbox was pivotal. I mean, you could not get a check or get a check. You know.
Yes, sweet Corrine. Yes, Corrine died. She did. Miss Corrine died.
So
don't she have eyes like old? That's all I call her, old Olivia.
Actress over here, man.
Well, I'm telling you, I love the movie. I do really love the movie. Yeah, I do love the movie. What's funny is my bonus son today asked me, he said, when I turned 13, is it okay if I watch The Color Purple with you? And I was like,
Absolutely.
wow, okay. I said, yeah, we might have to have a conversation about it, before and after. I said, but yeah, we could definitely talk about, maybe doing that. But yeah, that was interesting.
Did
like,
you guys have Color Purple nights where you would all your friends would come over and you would watch Color Purple?
No. No.
Who is Color Purple nights?
Well, when the movie when it came out on television,
like Saturday night.
well, everybody wanted to see it, and those people didn't go to the show to see it. They came over, and we watched it together.
No, me and my mom used to sit and watch it.
Okay,
I remember maybe once or twice we sat and actually watched the movie together. But it wasn't something that was playing.
Talked about it afterwards and just had a conversation.
Not really. No. I saw it though. I remember seeing it on Christmas Day in 1985. I saw it when it came out. I saw it with my mom.
At the movie too.
Yep. I saw it with my mom and my aunt and my uncle, Clarence and Dina Wilcox. And I bust out laughing in the theater, and my mom, because of the first line, almost the first line in the movie, was like, Sheila, you got the ugliest smile this side of creation. And I bust out laughing in the theater, and everybody was looking at me like, I was like, but I was a kid.
That wasn't the right time to laugh.
You know what I'm saying? I was like, I didn't know the movie was so serious.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So when he said that, I thought it was funny.
Yeah, that was the right time to laugh.
It was not the right time to laugh, but it was hilarious.
I mean, was also, I'm glad you brought that point up too before we sign off. But the fact that about the beauty of Black women.
Yes.
Like the fact that, women of darker shade was always considered ugly.
Yes.
And even with Suge, she was also thought of that way when you thought about the father critic, because the father was high yellow. So the criticism that he had for, the women and their look. And I just found that, so again, something that I don't think the younger generation understands, sort of the color divide, even among our own culture between, darker complected women and higher complected women. It was just very interesting that also kind of bubbled up and surfaced up.
I remember the director, I think it was the director of the photography for the 1985 version, saying that he had such a wonderful time taking pictures of people of color with so many different shades, and how he used light in certain scenes, like the scene when they found her first letter when Suge found the letter because she went to the mailbox and she grabbed Celie. They were in that room, and you could see the light shining in on them. He was like, we did so many different things. We played with the lighting in such a way to make sure that we didn't lose the emotion in the scene from the lighting. And he was talking about the dinner table and how all of the different hues from the
color
shades
played a big I love that.
But light played a huge role. I mean, when you think about the light that came in at the time where she finds the letter, they go to a room and there's just the shimmer of light. Saying, okay, now your eyes have been opened.
Or hope.
It could be hope. It could be any of those. But it was at that point that she began to find her voice.
Yes.
That's when she really got mad.
Right.
And she was ready to go do something to Mr. But at the same time, the thing that I walked away more than anything is that all the women found their voice, whether it was a different voice than what they had before it started. And to me, that was phenomenal that they all walked away with something different.
Yeah.
That's why I said, well, y'all some forgiving creatures.
Ooh, child.
Some forgiving. Because I'll probably still be over there.
Thank you. I'm reading. Thank you for all these beautiful comments on here. Joe actually talked about Danny Glover.
The role of playing the antagonist.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to Danny Glover, because it took them a long time. And that was something else I learned, is that after The Color Purple, it took Black actors a long time to get back into lead roles because of how the NAACP and how they, how the Academy didn't want to touch any Black, the movie production world did not want to touch lead Black actors for a while.
Of course.
And it took us a while it took us a while to get back into lead roles. So
shout out to Danny. Keep doing what you do.
Keep doing what you do. He getting too old for this though.
I mean, in a minute,
Then he's
prop him up on the
retired.
wall.
Then he's retired
I
right
think
now.
he is retired now.
He's retired
He
right
is
now.
retired.
Important. I think he definitely created a pathway
Absolutely.
for
They all
Black
did.
actors,
Yes.
well, Black men actors in particular. Because to your point, Black men were either cast in a couple of roles, and one of them
Absolutely.
was always the antagonist,
Absolutely.
always the rapist,
Absolutely.
always the burglar.
Absolutely.
So to show that even, I know Alice didn't like it, but I think showing that men too can mature,
Yes.
men too
Can grow up.
change.
You
I
know,
thought
even
that's
if he
important.
didn't actually say the
Mhm.
right things that she
Mhm.
wanted to hear at,
Right.
at any given point in time, but he did do right by
He
her
made it
Yes.
right.
to the point where, he got Nettie back. So
Yeah.
I appreciated
Yeah,
that.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
he had to redeem himself.
Yeah, he
Well, he
did.
ain't had to, but he did. Thank
That
God.
was a story of redemption. He had to
Yeah.
redeem himself.
I mean,
His
he
father
tried.
didn't redeem himself
He
at
sure
all.
did. He didn't care.
He could sweep out of the caboose. It's a lot better than that first wife he married.
Oh my God, we need to make an animation of The Color Purple. So that- we should
Like
make
Boondock. Boondock do a commentary on it.
That would be
Y'all do
hilarious.
it. The kids even know about the Boondocks.
I don't know.
The kids know
I
about
don't
the
know if the
Boondocks.
kids. I know adults who know about the
I know,
Boondocks,
but
but I don't know
I know
about
about
the
the Boondocks. The kids know about the Boondocks.
I don't know.
Because back in the day, that was like back in the 80s, 80s,
Yeah,
90s.
Yeah, that was
90s, I
a-
think.
Woo.
Well, it's been real.
Always.
Yes.
It's been fun.
Yes, it's been real and fun. We are so glad that you joined us tonight. Nobody answered the question, so I didn't see anybody answer.
I got a ticket. You get a ticket.
I didn't see anybody answer the question. The question was, who is the actual voice for singing sister, which is Miss Seeley's Blues and God's Trying to Tell You Something. Michelle.
I got her last name. If I say her last name, can I get the ticket?
No. Tata Vega.
Yep.
Ta, ta, ta.
I get the tickets. No. Yeah. I'm selling them for $25.
Give me a ticket.
We love y'all. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank
tonight.
you.
You have
Happy
my sister, your sister. Happy
Yes.
holidays.
Holiday.
Merry Christmas. Happy Kwanzaa. Happy
Exactly.
Hanukkah. Good night.
Jesus is the reason for the season.
2 times.
You've been listening to
Soulful inspiration.
We're so glad you hung out with us today. We're here every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on WVTC Detroit. If you'd like to partner with us or sponsor a show with your business, send us an email at tntsoulllc@gmail.com, or you can call us at 313-570-8280. I'm your girl.
Nikki Jones.
The views and opinions expressed on the previous broadcast are those of the authors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of WVTC Radio Detroit, its advertisers, or affiliates.
We are WVTC. What Detroit Gospel Internet Radio. What it is. We're gospel music. Preaching. Teaching. Encouraging. What it is. All up in what it is. The community. What it is.
WVTC. In your neighborhood, it's what we do. What is?
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit, and we're flowing in the Spirit.